Well, hello everyone. It is Pod Sothoth, a Lovecraft book club, with your host and pal, friend, lover, Todd Beardsley.
Ew.
And also with my attorney and wife, Claire Reynolds. Hi, Claire.
Hello.
This is a very exciting episode for us.
Is it?
I'd say it is. Not so much.
Not because of the story.
Not
surely.
because of the story, but because we have news. So, I mean, I feel like we should just kind of start at the top. We are definitely going to be performing at Necronomicon 2024 in Providence, Rhode Island. We're having a show we're having a live podcast.
We're putting on a show.
We're putting
Monorail.
We're putting on a show. We're going to be doing dramatic readings.
Muppet style.
No Muppets will be involved, unfortunately.
I'm out. Forget it.
We are going to be reading dramatically Fungi from Yuggoth.
Well, you're reading dramatically, right?
Possibly audience members are reading.
Ooh.
Yeah, so audience participation will be encouraged but not required.
You got to be careful with that.
I know. I think I can have an eye on the crowd and know what's going on. Yeah, if you want to be on the podcast, come visit us in Providence on August 15th, I believe, whatever the Thursday is of Necronomicon. And we will be that evening at 7 p.m. at the historic Black Box Theater. We will be performing Fungi from Yuggoth. The discussion episode, of course, I will be reading it on my own in my little room here. Before then, I'll publish it a couple days before the show, so you can catch up if you need to. But we will be interpreting it, discussing it, making stupid jokes about it, all of that, and it's poetry. So it's something that we haven't actually covered. Lovecraft has a fair amount of poetry. I've never read any. And this will be exciting for everyone.
Sure, this will be just as exciting as if we were reading from my 7th grade diary of poetry.
Possibly. No, he's definitely a poet and writer and short story and flash fiction author. But yeah, so come visit with us, and you can experience us in 3 dimensions and also see us instead of just listening to us as disembodied voices in your ear pods or whatever you use to listen to us.
Sure. You can, if you want, you can go through time. Throw in that other dimension.
Yeah,
the
sure.
5th?
The fourth,
I don't know. Fourth
dimension. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It depends
Space?
It depends on how much math you know.
Okay.
If you're gonna like Gilman this thing,
I only know 3
from
math.
the witch house.
I know 3 maths.
Well,
Here. Maybe right inside this table. Living on a simultaneous plane of existence with our own.
if you're into the quantums, then come back in time and haunt us at the Black Box Theater
Go back in time.
at 95 Empire Street in Providence, Rhode Island.
All right.
We'll see you there. So, yeah, very exciting. By the way, admission is free for Necronomicon participants if you have a badge. If you don't have a badge, you're not willing to commit to an entire weekend of Lovecraftian nonsense, that's fine. Just $10 at the door. That's all we ask. So that's very exciting from the top. But hey, that's not what you're here for. You're here to hear about a discussion of The Picture in the House, which I just read a couple weeks ago, and it's a pretty great story. So, Claire,
Is it though?
It is. So I read that The Picture in the House is one of the most reprinted stories of Lovecraft's. Which is shocking to me because I have never read it before. You know me, I feel like I'm a Lovecraft devotee. I know a thing or two about Lovecraftian horror. I've probably read maybe 40-ish, possibly even 50 of Lovecraft's stories. Canonically, Lovecraft has 67 published fiction stories. there's probably 20 I haven't ever read before. This is one of them. I've never read this story before the podcast, so I was excited to read it, especially given the accolades that I read about it. It's like, oh, this is straight up Lovecraft. This is like deep Lovecraft horror. Is it? Is what I ask, because it's good. Like, I like it. I like how it ends. I like, I like the revelation, which we'll get to. We don't have to get into it right now, but I like the revelation. I like the backwoods Massachusetts-ness of it all. I think that's really kind of like deep Lovecraft country kind of stuff. But definitely no squid monsters, no immortal wizards.
God, he's so mean about the backwoods Massachusetts people, though.
Yeah, he doesn't like
So
them.
mean.
Yeah, there's definitely some Providence privilege going on here.
As someone, I wouldn't say I grew up in the backwoods, but only because it's so filled with cornfields that there's no woods.
Yes, Claire's a farm girl.
I didn't grow up on a farm, but I grew up around farm people. And it was just, dude. Okay.
So let's get into it, shall we?
Sure.
All right. So I asked ChatGPT. Yes, this podcast is definitely AI driven now. I asked ChatGPT to summarize this story for me in beat for beat, and it gave me 8 beats.
Okay.
All right. So let's
this is good. I need this.
Let's do this as an experiment. All
All
right.
right.
If people hate it, please let me know. I understand that ChatGPT is built on
Lies.
theft and lies and hallucinations.
You sit on a throne of lies.
It seems like it kind of nailed this. So, people who seek horror often explore remote, eerie places, especially old, isolated. Jesus.
If you seek horror, is that like if you seek Amy?
Oh, tell me, have you seen her? 'Cause I'm so.
Yeah. I barely. I'm like reaching for the goal. By the way, everyone.
Do you need me to read this?
No, I don't need you to read this. However, I have been drinking tonight.
I'm gonna drink on the night.
And we went to the Alamo Draft
I'll read
House
it.
and watched Massacre, which of course comes with booze. And then we met some friends for some quesadillas and margaritas, and then we decided to go record tonight.
I'm not drunk, all right? I just have a speech impediment.
I am.
Do you want to summarize?
I'm pretty sober. I just had way too much queso. Like it's now
You have
filling my guts.
You have a layer of
like
queso.
the entire, you know how your whole intestines all do the like twisty back and forth, like that is just filled.
It's just with queso.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
All right. To summarize it, I don't know. I would love to see the ChatGPT thing. To
All
me,
right,
it's
here.
just like,
Let me give it
all
another
right,
shot.
creepy.
All right, here's the thing. People who seek horror go to remote places.
Like it says, searchers
Among
after
the-
horror haunt strange far places.
Right.
First sentence. Okay.
Among those strange places are, hang on, I have notes. Ptolemais, which is in modern day Israel. It was an area of like an ancient Egyptian / Hellenistic outpost. It's a whole thing.
I don't understand what that has to do with any of the rest of the story, though.
He's saying that
Am
there
I
are.
missing something?
I don't want to say you're missing something, but like Lovecraft opens up with like the grand scope of ancientry, right? Like the ancient world, of which you may have heard of Ptolemais, which is part of like the ancient Mediterranean and also backwoods New England.
You know me from such
Yeah.
films as
Ptolemais, a Bronze Age city on the move. So yeah, he kind of just, I don't know, he throws in this Ptolemais reference, which I found kind of interesting. You know, as longtime listeners of this podcast know, I have a quest in my life to visit every place mentioned by Lovecraft, boy, it's getting harder and harder.
I mean, a lot of them aren't even in this universe, so
right.
that's
And
going to
I'm
be a
going to
hard.
discount those, but Ptolemais is definitely a real place. And it's a real place in Israel today. So it's possible to go there, and I guess I have to put it on the list.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Well,
All
someday.
right. So to sum up, what I got from this was that
Wow,
he was
we're
like,
just going to sum up.
no, I mean the first part
Uh-huh.
is he's like, people who like creepy things have to go to creepy places to find those creepy things.
For sure. And here's one creepy place. It's in the backwoods of New England, and it is far away from Arkham, Massachusetts, which itself is not a very big city, right? It's certainly not Boston. But it's in Massachusetts somewhere, and it's like a day's bike ride from Arkham. So kind of backwoodsy. Is that Wicked Witch of the West? Okay,
yes.
Thank you. So the narrator, he's been roaming around the Miskatonic Valley looking for genealogical data. And I guess he's like interviewing people and fixing names to places mainly. So on his bike, a storm rises up. And he's like, oh, dang, I didn't bring an umbrella. So
Not even a newspaper.
no newspaper. He doesn't have a slicker or his rubbers. He has nothing. So lucky for him, he sees at a seemingly abandoned farmhouse out in, the wilds of backwoods Massachusetts. And so he knocks on the door.
But it's like
Yes.
abandoned, but not abandoned.
It's not.
I did like that part.
He notices this, like, as he's even approaching. It's like, well, the windows aren't broken. The path to the house seems not unkempt, but not kempt.
I feel like they're describing our yard.
It's a bit. I do feel a little called out.
Like
Being
someone has been here recently,
uh-huh.
but they didn't put very much effort into it.
So we don't live in an HOA controlled neighborhood, and so the state of everyone's yards is very wild. I have forsworn all yard work. I leave that to my attorney
He
and
did.
wife.
He told me when we got married. He was like, I don't do yard work.
I will happily pay someone, but Claire does that for free. So, but yeah, so the yard is not great, but it's not terrible. It's not completely overgrown. And so he goes up and he knocks on the door because he's like, well, clearly this is not completely abandoned. Someone might be here. Tap, tap, tap. Knocks on the door. Nobody answers. He peeks in. He brings his bike, which I think is very cool. Like, it's a very hipster to bring your bike indoors.
Well, you don't want it to get all rained on.
I guess, but it seems I don't know. It seems very bohemian to bring a bicycle inside to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like if somebody a stranger was gonna just come into my house out of the rain, I would probably be a little put off if they drug their wet, muddy bicycle in.
So he brings his bike in. He parks
Which,
it.
in retrospect, that sounds totally hipster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. He brings his bike in. He parks it in the foyer or whatever, and he sees. His first encounter is a room, right? It's a room, and it's filled with relics of the past.
Wait. No.
Yes.
No. He has
No.
to open a door to get there.
Right. So
He
there's
comes in and there's
an entrance room. There's a
Yeah.
fore room,
Yeah.
I guess.
and
which
then
is
there's
where he
like
leaves
a
his bike.
stairwell
Yeah.
and then a few doors or something.
Door. Everything's closed.
So instead of just coming in and hiding from the rain because he's desperate, and that's what you do.
Right. He decides to explore.
Yes. Let's not just.
He's like, well,
As long as I'm here, I might as well open some fucking doors,
I've
right?
got some minutes to kill while the storm.
I'm a middle-aged white man. Let's just open these doors.
Yeah, sure. So the first door he opens, there's a sitting room. Here's the thing. So yeah, let's talk about it right now. So he sees this room. It is filled with anachronisms, right? It's like everything here is from the 17th century, 18th century, 1700s, including all the books, all the accoutrement, right? And he remarks upon it. Even it's like, hey, if this was some kind of antiquarian's house, I would expect to see like some old stuff in here, but this is all old stuff. So he clearly knows what he's talking about. Point number 1: did he time travel, Claire?
Oh, that's a good question.
Does the house only exist in the 1700s?
I mean, there's nothing leading up to that to make us think that.
I don't know. I feel like,
but you might be right. That
I
never
feel
occurred
like
to me.
It may be like this house, the house in particular, is stuck in time.
Okay. Yeah,
And
that could be.
You know, because like that would later explain his weird ancient Yankee accent.
Yeah.
Not so much that he's immortal, but the things that he's doing in here, that which we'll get to, lead to like kind of a bubble in time. You know.
Yeah. So here's my question: Is Pigafetta?
Yes.
Is that a real person?
He is a real person. So
because before we get there, I just want to say in my head,
that'll do Pigafetta.
It was Miss Piggy. Like Pigafetta?
How can
we? Yes. It was like her as an explorer of the ancient Congo.
Yes.
She kicks some ass, by the way.
So Pigafetta definitely was a Portuguese.
It's probably like Pigafetta or something.
Pigafetta is what I found as the pronunciation. I had to scroll down in my notes, but Pigafetta was a Portuguese. I know, I'm doing it with like an Italian accent.
You can only see it as Miss Piggy, right?
Yes. He was a Portuguese explorer. He was the first European to visit the Congo, let's say.
Or to write about it.
Right? He also talks about the brothers' debris in here. I don't know about the brothers' debris. I know about a brother. I know about a debris, and his name is Theodore Debris, who did the etchings. He did the carvings and stuff, and so all the illustrations. And this is a known account. And it's here, right? And it's in the room. And by the way, it's a little bit antiquated. And it's weird that this guy has it like in his weird little farmhouse in the backwoods of Massachusetts. So he's acclimating himself. Wow, I just got real slurry. He's acclimating himself. And he does also notice the Magnalia Christi Americana, which is another tome.
Magnited States of America.
In USA, United States of America, where you are free to text in a theater.
It's by Cotton Mather.
You'll only get that if you're from Austin.
Yeah. I'll leave it in. It's by Cotton Mather. It is also mentioned in The Unnameable, which we covered on this very show. So, Cotton Mather's Magnalia.
United States of America.
Christi Americana. It is all about witchcraft, basically, in America from the 17th century, aka the 1600s, and on. So interesting that that's also there. So this dude, whoever lives here or lived here, turns out he lives here, is definitely a collector of tomes. If you've ever played any Call of Cthulhu style role-playing game, you know tomes is the name of the game.
Better have your tote bag for this one.
That's right. Tote bag gives you an extra tome if you play Arkham Horror. So he's dorking around in there. He's like looking at all the books. He's looking at all the things. He's like, wow, look at these spoons. They're super out of date. And then he hears something above. He hears a stomping. Yeah.
Bonk. Bonk.
Bonk, 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 indeed. So he hears the sound of footsteps from the room above. And
he must live with teenagers.
Uh-huh.
In the middle of the night. They just walk back and forth all night long.
I don't know what they're doing. So we just had a bunch of teenagers in our house. It's the summer, of course, and they don't seem to care about weekends or weekdays.
What is a weekend?
What is a weekend? Yeah, so I'll put the drop in.
What is a weekend?
Man, they just tromp around all night long until like 3 a.m.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know. I came upstairs and they were all in bed. And I was like, literally, you guys were just walking back and forth, back and forth. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. It was gaslighting at its finest.
Folks, don't ever have teenagers. They gaslight you at 2 a.m.
And they walk around all night.
Or ghosts. One or the other. Anyway, so this guy is tromping around, and he's like, oh, well, I guess he must have been sleeping, and now he's awake. And he stops, at the foreroom and notices the bike, presumably because he pauses over there. And then he comes in the room. Seems super friendly, actually. Mm-hmm. Like, seems like, hey, I don't mind that you came in because it's raining out, and obviously you would come in. But let me tell you about this cool book you're looking at right now. And the book is the I don't even have it written down. It's the Regium Congo, I think. It's an account by Pigafetta and Debris.
Pigafetta, let me go. Just a poor pig.
And if you listen to this podcast in order, you will have heard my terrible ancient Yankee accent, in which I tried to evoke Robert Shaw in Jaws.
I don't want no volunteers. I don't want no mates. There's too many captains on this island.
Gets in the rain, be ye.
Yeah, I'm not going to even try to do it here. My ancient Yankee is not very good, but also it's from the 1700s, and there's no recordings. Yeah. So who knows? Who knows what it sounds like?
Maybe he sounded like Popeye. Who knows?
Wobble me down.
Yeah. So then it just gets into a bunch of like him ripping on this old man for just being tattered. Like he doesn't really.
That's the thing.
Get into that. He says like, oh, he would friendly
be,
and nice and whatever, but also super tattered.
He would be like very genial looking, but for the fact that he's covered in rags.
Yes.
And I don't know, like maybe the time bubble that I have posited earlier that surrounds the house is uneven, and maybe it doesn't account for his clothes.
Yeah.
Like it keeps the books in preservation, and it keeps him in preservation, but not his clothes. And so his clothes have rotted away around him, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then they started talking about a specific story in this book.
Plate 12, I want to say.
Plate 12, yes.
Yeah. Plate 12 is the plate to make the book. And so plate 12 is a scene, and it's a gruesome scene. It's a gruesome scene of cannibalism, where you see a picture of a butcher, and he's got people's like arms and legs and heads just kind of scattered all over the place.
Yeah. But don't forget, we got to throw in some racism while we're at it.
We got to throw in a little racism. Right. So in my reading,
can't leave that out.
Yeah. So I was a little on the fence on this because like the character is saying it. It's not Lovecraft saying it; it's the character saying it. But of course, anyway, in my reading, I substitute every N-word for African. Okay, and just going past it, right?
Even if they're African.
I do like the New England style pronunciation of Africa as Afriki, and I kept that for sure. But yeah, all the N-words are just like. And it's like, and them men, they can't be Africans. Yeah. They do be it all, kind of like Indians, I guess, even if they be in Africa. Yeah.
And this, he says, okay, some of these here critters looks like monkeys or half monkeys and half men.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. Here he pointed to a fabulous creature of the artist, which one might describe as a sort of dragon with the head of an alligator.
Yes. Yes, I have a note on that specifically.
What?
So that is a different creature, and
that's not monkey and men.
No, it's not. No,
that's dragon and alligator.
No, that comma should be a period, And also there's a dragon alligator. And I was thinking, and
The
dralligator. Thank you. My note is a yig monster? Question mark.
Could be.
So maybe it's like if you go back to our Curse of Yig, like we have a whole bunch of like reptilian monsters in there. And I'm wondering, like, oh, maybe this is like a connection to the cult of Yig. Who knows? That's in Africa. Usually, by the way, the African mythology tends to line up with Shub-Niggurath, who is a kind of a nature monster, basically, that like does a bunch of mutations and stuff. But yeah, like I can see a reptoid monster being in there as well. But yeah, has nothing to do with monkeys and half men. That is an orc, is what he's describing. And then it gets real creepy because he just keeps talking about plate 12. He's like, and he's like, he talks about the time that he slaughtered a sheep. And he's like, I slaughtered that sheep, but I was thinking about that plate 12.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely it's a little bit more Texas made Chainsaw Massacre.
It got real Texas Chainsaw there. And that's why that's probably why I couldn't maintain the Robert Shaw New England, where I had to just
killing sheep.
I just had to slide right in.
But
Southern.
it wasn't quite satisfying. Twon't quite satisfying. It's all Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
Queer how a craven gets a hold on you.
I liked it. I thought it was the creepiest part of the story, right? So and he just gets creepier and creepier and creepier. And then
I just like the idea that like they're sitting here, Lovecraft character is like, oh yeah, we opened this, and he's like, we're just gonna keep talking about this one picture, huh?
So, and it does remind me of Texas Chainsaw, specifically in the very beginning of Texas Chainsaw, where they pick up the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
And he has the Polaroid.
Throw nothing away. They use the jowls and the muscles and the eyes and the ligaments and everything.
Yeah.
Of the slaughtered cow.
Yes.
And he just like shows it. And he's like, hey, check this out. No, really, check this out. No, look. No, look at this.
Yeah.
And it struck me as very Texas Chainsaw. So good on you, Lovecraft, for predicting Texas Chainsaw. 80 years ahead of time. Meanwhile, the brainstorm is getting louder and louder. There's a lot more thunder. There's a lot more rain. And then there's a plop on the book. And maybe it's a leak in the roof, but no, rain isn't crimson. What fluid could I think of that's possibly scarlet in nature? Oh, it's a blood stain upstairs where this dude just was. Plop, right on the book, right on plate 12, bringing it into Technicolor lifelikeness. But before he can go completely bonkers, lightning strikes, destroys the house.
Wait, is that what happened?
That's what happens. He blinks, and
a moment later came the titanic thunderbolt of thunderbolts. Oh, blasting that accursed house of unutterable secrets and bringing
totally destroyed.
Wow, I did not catch that at all.
Now, here's the question.
Really, he just got his head caved in with an axe.
One interpretation, yes. I like that. I like that a lot. Like, he mistakes a thunderstrike for this old-timey cannibal who's immortal, who has been around since the 1700s, caved his freaking head in. Or it was a lightning strike that killed everyone, including the narrator. And he's telling the story ex oblivion. He's telling the story from beyond the grave.
Well, either way, he's telling the story from beyond the grave.
Or,
I mean, if he got his head smashed in.
Yes, if his head is smashed in, he's dead. If he was also killed in the lightning strike that destroyed the entire house that he was in, also dead. Third option, The lightning strike somehow killed everyone, destroyed the house, but left him alive.
Yeah. And he crawls out.
And he crawls out to tell the tale.
Yeah, as a farmer in a truck drives up.
Yes.
And pulls over to
That's
let
right.
him.
Yes, in the style of Tobe Hooper of Texas Chainsaw. And yeah, that's it. So, Claire.
No, I mean, it was okay-ish, you know?
I like the penultimate scene.
There was just so...
I like the penultimate scene
yeah.
where the guy who is possibly immortal because of his cannibalism is talking about his cannibalism. I like that part a lot.
There's a lot of Lovecraft stuff that would look better on film than in telling it. Like he does a whole lot of telling instead of showing.
Sure.
And if you could just show it, it would be shortened down quite a bit. So that's interesting to me that like there's so much of what he's describing would be much more
I do like
scary if it was like a visual thing.
I like the notion of this as a short film, like a 15-minute piece.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a guy caught in the rain, goes in, sees all this old shit. I don't know how you like communicate that it's old shit, but like maybe he is narrating like in his head or something, but and then sees this account from the Congo, which is, by the way, like a real account but also rare. And then the guy comes down and says like, hey, I really like this page though, but how about this page? And
this
lightning
is, you know,
strikes.
you're straight. Yeah, this is good. This is a good story.
Well,
I think I'm coming around.
I thank you on behalf of the Lovecraft community because
they're very concerned.
They are. I've read that this is one of the most reprinted of Lovecraft stories. I don't know why. I have never heard of this story before this podcast. Like I was unfamiliar with it, and maybe that makes me a bad Lovecraft fan. I'm probably, like I said, like I'm probably 40 out of 60 on Lovecraft of like having committed to memory and and everything. This is one of those that just like escaped my attention. So I'm glad to have read it, and I do like the weird backwoods Massachusetts-ness of it. That's like, oh, there's these little pockets of antiquity.
Yeah, I think for sure, like, for me, a lot of it is the dialogue. You know, it's hard. It's easier to envision it as someone speaking it rather than trying to read it.
Generally speaking, I don't like dialect in dialogue. You can just say, as an author,
distracting.
As an author, you can say just like, and he said in a thick Yankee accent the words that he said, right? And like I'll translate it in my head, right? When you write it out phonetically like this, it's a little hard to read. And maybe that's supposed to communicate like what the listener is hearing, right? Like what the work that the listener has to go to like kind of translate in his head into English. Yeah. And he even says, it's like, hey, I wonder how, you know, like with his childlike glee at the translations of the Latin, right? Like he's like, he's doing that and he's wondering, it's like, well, how good is he at reading English? Because he has some old English books too, and he's probably not catching a lot of it. So yeah, linguistically, it's a little bit difficult, but yeah, I like the story a lot.
So this guy's just here in this house chopping up whoever shows up,
I guess. You know, like, I mean, it
and
seems like he's graduated from sheep.
Yeah,
you know, because he's got somebody upstairs,
right?
Which is where the blood comes from.
Yeah.
You know, anytime someone pops by, you know, it's victuals that he can't buy nor raise, as he says in the story. But yeah, well, just a little down home cannibalism is what this is about. That's my attempt at Tobe Hooper.
Oh, okay. All right.
Texas Chainsaw. If you like this story, you will love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Here's something I want to say about Texas Chainsaw. I watched Texas Chainsaw for the first time when I was 16 years old.
Oh, baby Todd.
It was distressing. Like, I had already gone through a bunch of horror at my local video store. And like, I knew how horror worked and all that.
You saw the original one?
Oh yeah. And when I saw Texas Chainsaw, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that was like probably the first time I was sickened.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, I felt it in my gut of like, oh, this is not good. Now, I've watched Texas Chainsaw since then, as an adult, and I can really appreciate, Tobe Hooper's artistry in that. But that is like OG folk horror. Like, folk horror, I guess, is like kind of on a downslide right now, but like through 2018 to 2022, like there was a real bump in folk horror, and every time I watched any folk horror, I was like, oh, this is Texas Chainsaw, but not as good.
Remember that episode of the X-Files at the farmhouse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of like the freaks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
that's the thing. It's like everything. It's just so hard to match. Everything is a Tobe Hooper pastiche, really. We just got back from watching.
Wow, that was a fancy word, Todd.
We just got back from watching Maxine.
$5 word.
Thank you. And we watched X in preparation for watching Maxine, and it's like, oh, this is Texas horror, but not as good.
Yeah.
And yeah, Texas Chainsaw is very good, so go watch it. And be prepared. Bring a bag with you. Bring a sick bag, because it's real bad. So let's get into some business, shall we? As I grab my drink. So, as mentioned at the top of the show, Pod Sothoth, a Lovecraft Book Club, will be recording live at the Black Box Theater on Thursday, on Thursday, August 15th, at Necronomicon. Admission is free for Necronomicon folks, otherwise $10 at the door. We'll be performing Fungi from Yoggoth. Very exciting. But that's not all, folks. No, it turns out that Claire Reynolds, Esquire, attorney at law, Harley Geiger, Esquire, attorney at law, and Todd Beardsley, no appellation, will be performing's not the right word. We'll be presenting at the Hermitage Symposium a paper and entitled Vanitas Horrendum Lex from Beyond the Bar. And it will be all about Lovecraftian law, which is very interesting, I believe, will be, and fun for everyone. If you have any legal questions about the state of law in 1920s to 1930, please write in to hideous@podsothoth.club or hit us up in the various social medias that we actually publish in, notably not Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. and cache your question there, because we'll answer it right in the moment. It'll be great. We're going to be talking about Lovecraft's interpretation of the law, his representation of the law, in things like, hey, in the Dunwich Horror, are there any issues about child endangerment, about parental rights? Find out.
Find out the answer to these and other burning questions.
Burning legal questions that you might have. Is your role-playing game getting a little stagnant? Do you want to inject some of the mystery, suspense, and terror that is involved in filing motions in 1925 courts? Did you want to? Yes, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to have an entire legal drama play out in your role-playing game? Right. Make your next
LA law.
Make your next Call of Cthulhu game into a LA Law storyline. And you can get help from Claire, Harley, and of course me, Todd Beardsley, who will be moderating between these two actual and real lawyers. It'll be a good time. What else are we doing? We also have some notes that came in from fans. One from Eugene, and I'm just going to read it in its entirety. Eugene writes, "The first story I heard was At the Mountains of Madness, and I was addicted to the unforeseen world, a world after JRPGs and hours of trying to understand the lore around the worlds that existed in the imagination of others. Imaginations so real and palpable that they became a reality unto themselves. All that to say, your podcast and love for the material and sensitivity to the racism and uncouth aspects of the man himself makes me appreciate, as an African-American fan, how fandom can still be called to accountability and made accessible. You guys rock, and I'm glad you exist." Thank you so much, Eugene, for the note. I appreciate it very much. We are forsworn. We will... Is that a word? Is that the right word?
I think so. Like, I'm pretty sure you just pledged our axe and sword to him.
We will call out racism and all the nonsense as we see it in the fandom. Also, No Cornflake wrote to me a couple weeks ago. A person named No Cornflake said, "Hey, remember back in episode 2 of Butts Off Up, Claire..."
This person is a person after my own heart, for sure. Like, hey, remember this thing that happened a long time ago that you forgot about?
Do you remember 4 years ago?
That's everything that I am all of the time.
4 years ago, Claire had a wish, and that wish was, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have a treatment of Pickman's model from the point of view of Elliot, who is the person that Thurbin is talking to? And what would that look like? Well, fans, No Cornflake has delivered.
Love it.
No Cornflake has published a fanfic of Pickman's model from the point of view of Elliot on Wattpad, which is the traditional internet home for fanfic. I'll have a link in the show notes, and you can go read it. It's amazing. It's great. They even mention the use of our, I do believe, second episode anchovy martini that I was drinking at the time.
In retrospect, why were you drinking that?
It was a terrible idea. But not awful. No, you know what? I'm going to say it wasn't a terrible idea.
It was just a terrible-ish idea?
I would definitely drink another anchovy martini today.
Would you?
I would. Especially in the state I'm in. I mean, I've had a bunch of beer and tequila tonight.
Wow.
So like an anchovy martini sounds kind of refreshing. Claire, we have a new paid subscriber. I don't think it's their real last name, but I don't want to call them out. I'm just going to say Bill.
All right.
Bill, thank you so much. You have
Bill Paxton?
It's Bill Pullman, actually.
Oh, Bill Pullman. That's right. Bill Paxton is dead.
Yeah, they're
that would be
often confused.
Oh, wow. That would be amazing, though. But either way, I'll take you both.
No, it's neither of those, but it's Bill with a very fake sounding last name, but I don't want to say it out loud in case it is actually their last name. They're a new subscriber. We have now 2 subscribers.
Nice.
Excellent. Now, speaking of subscribers, they
should get something.
So a listener pointed me to, hey, YouTube's RSS feed doesn't suck anymore. You can actually use it to publish podcasts. I did. Boy, oh boy, that's been going gangbusters. I don't know why so many people are using YouTube for podcasts. We're getting tens of subscribers on the YouTube. We're starting to get comments back and all that.
Oh my God, is it mean children?
It's mostly kids, it seems like. But
Are they mean?
No, they seem all right. Yeah.
Okay.
Things seem okay. I mean, I know rule number 1 on YouTube is never read the comments.
Yeah.
I peeked at the comments. They seem fine so far. I don't know why anyone would listen to podcasts on YouTube, but if that's your thing, hey, welcome. Welcome, YouTubers. Now, learn how to use your podcast app. It's on your phone, I promise you. You just find Pod Sothoth.
Or maybe
on your podcast
they're
app.
the young people and we're the old people.
Possibly, but you don't have to watch that one still frame of video that YouTube puts it on and makes it enormous. You can download it like from a regular podcast service such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify. There are several other directories, or directly from Buzzsprout, which is where we actually publish. It's super low bandwidth, and you can get it in seconds, and you don't have to deal with the YouTube nonsense. But hey, if YouTube is your thing, thank you. Let me know. And that's it for business. We will definitely be at Necronomicon. We very much want to hear your legal questions on Lovecraftian law and have them in pocket for when we're doing it on stage. We have a bunch of stuff prepared, obviously, because we're professionals. But we do have a bunch of time set aside for Q&A. And so if you'd like to queue, definitely love to A you.
Let me know. Wow. No, I'm always happy to give it depends.
Yeah, and obviously this podcast and anything Claire says establishes a client-attorney privilege.
It does not establish an attorney.
Oh, did I get that backwards?
Yes, you did, honey.
This entire marriage is privileged.
Right.
It's me,
Todd.
Your husband and pal.
Oh, I don't like calling you my pal.
No, I'm not your pal at all.
You're my best friend.
I'm your lover.
Yes, for sure.
Hello.
Yeah, nobody wanted to hear that for sure.
We can start from the top.
Let's spare the world that.